And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we are talking about Season 3, Episode 2. The Enterprise Incident. And we have a wonderful panel. It's nice to be reunited with you guys. We have Sub Commander Tall joining us, the namesake.
That's right.
That's it, right.
That's right.
We have our wonderful Admiral back from DST and all the wonderful fun shenanigans that you were having, that we were all enjoying online. Nice to see you. Welcome back, Ian.
Thank you.
And we have our dominant commander.
Dom Commander Sub. Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
Remember, my mother watches this show, Ruben, so this is not the same.
I've said nothing in my name.
I know, I'm just reminding.
I'm dumb. What? I don't know what any of that means. It's just words.
Okay, just a quick reminder.
It's just words. Don't look them up, Mom. It's just words.
Mom, don't look up.
Where's my cloaking device, Kirk?
But I do like your Romulan cosplay. That's cool how you did the scarf across there. It's really good.
Honestly, in his defense, your mum likes a certain chef that swears an awful lot.
It's not the swearing; it's the body stuff. She doesn't mind the swearing as much as some of the other humor that slips in every now and then. But we'll keep Rupert on task. We'll all work together collectively to keep our Dom Commander Sub over here on task. We have audience joining us already. Nice to see everyone here. We have Chris Collins. What is cool is in Star Trek Continues, the actress who portrays the female Romulan commander, her daughter portrays her mother's character in the last 2 episodes. Ooh, I did not know that. That's a fun.
Did you not? Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, she really is the spitting image of.
She was, yeah.
Melville.
It was like having that the Romulan commander back, because she was
so cool. That's a really nice coup to get. I feel like they did the same thing with Chris Doohan playing Scotty too on Star Trek Continues. So that was a nice little coup too. Thanks for that piece of trivia there, Chris. What's the name of the actress who plays the commander, whose name is so rare and beautiful?
Joanne Linville.
Thank you.
Yeah, she just passed away this July, I believe. Joanne
I
Linville,
saw that. That's sad. Hey, Earl Grey Trekkie. Earl Grey Trekkie is watching us from convalescence today. I hope you feel better. That's why he's not joining us today. Yeah, get well soon. And thanks for being in the chat. We really appreciate it. Let's see who else is here. Captain RGD. What's with the rocks in each series? Wait, what happened with the rocks in this episode? I don't remember the rocks. But yeah, there's a lot of rocks in Star Trek, especially when there's explosions. It's like a tradition now. It's like a trope now. Like, you can't really get away from it. My headcanon
which has now been added with flamethrowers now. Flamethrowers have been added in.
My headcanon is there's a lot of fiber optics and materials that could get fused and turn into what appear to be rocks when there's an incident or when things blow up. Yeah, so that's the only.
They're little dilithium crystals. They're just tiny dilithium crystals that have burnt out. They're they're in every panel. They're everywhere. So yeah, that's what it is.
Chris also points out that without this episode, you don't get the iconic hand motion seen in Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. Or did it appear in Journey to Babel? You're talking about is he talking about the Pon farm?
Yeah, that wasn't in this, but
or the fake death face grip.
Oh yes, the
Vulcan death grip,
which was the brilliantly made up Vulcan death grip. Hey, Immortal Technique. Hello, everybody. Glory to all your houses. Thank you so much. Ulysses is here as well. Hello. Nice to see you. And Oleg. Yay. Hi to everyone. Nice to see you, Oleg. Great. All right, let's get started. Does anyone want to do our episode summary for this episode? Keep it short and sweet. Anyone volunteer?
I can volunteer. I don't know how short and sweet I can keep it. But I can try. I can try.
We'll try to keep you on. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So we start off, and we actually hear McCoy's medical log, which is pretty unusual. I think that's the first time we start with that, and he's expressing concern about Kirk's increasing irritability, which is promptly demonstrated on the bridge when he's kind of snapping at Chekhov and the other bridge crew, and he orders the Enterprise into the Romulan neutral zone, which no one was expecting. No one's in favor of this. Scotty is surprised, and they're promptly surrounded by a trio of Romulan vessels, which sadly happen to look like the Klingon vessels, because of course the original Romulan model was lost or destroyed. So, and anyway, so they're surrounded by the 3 Klingon vessels, and Kirk realizes that the Romulans must want something, otherwise they would have destroyed the ship. So he agrees to go on board. Oh, there we go. There's the old D7 or Katinga.
The Katinga. This one's the Katinga. Yeah, exactly. The D7's smoother and has a white livery.
It's the same thing. It's just one's the movie one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's a cool looking ship.
It is. I mean, frankly, it's cooler looking than the original Bird of Prey. But it's anyway. I gotta go with the Romulan design. So they beam on board, Kirk and Spock. The Romulans are surprised to see a Vulcan on the bridge, so they request that Spock beams on board also. And we do meet in this initial scene that great one-time guest character, Subcommander Tal, who does make an appearance. In fact, he's only one of only 2 Romulans who were ever named on the show. They never named they didn't name Mark Leonard's main Romulan commander in Balance of Terror, and they don't name Joanne Linville's character in this, but Tal and Decius are the only Romulans who ever get names. So they get on board and they have a wonderful introduction to the great Romulan commander, who spins around in her chair, in that wonderful mid-century leather chair. And it's the first female commander we see in Star Trek too. And she's immediately suspicious and wondering why were they in the Romulan neutral zone. And Kirk pretends that that it was an instrument failure, that it wasn't because he ordered them in there. He continues on his irritable streak.
I'll kill you.
That's a little irritable, and that's what we all do when we're irritable, right? She's not buying it, and she asks to speak to Spock about it, and kind of using her cleverness and wiles, gets a little more information out of him, and Spock. Playing a part, Spock is here, as Kirk we'll find out. But he says he decides to spill the beans and say, "No, Starfleet didn't order us into here. This was all Captain Kirk. He's mentally he's stressed out. He's a basket case, and this is his craving for glory." And at which point Kirk breaks down and seems to go crazy. So that's how the episode starts. And,
he's certainly seen a bunch of other captains being crazy.
That's right. He's got good role models. Yeah,
not a big stretch for him.
No, that's right. It just kind of comes with the job. That's why. Yeah, that's the standard career exit path for starship captains most of the time, is they go nuts. So after they cut back from the teaser, I think the commander and Spock are she's laying it on a little thick and hoping that she can kind of get him on her side, and saying, Vulcans aren't appreciated in the Federation. There's so many great things about the Romulan Empire. There's more out there than just the Federation. You should have your own ship, etc., etc.
Very tempting. Were they enticements, or what did she call them?
The food.
Just like she's like, we have many enticements or something. He's like, these are really good enticements, and she's like, we have many more in that scene or something like that. It was like really cool.
Yeah, I think she's talking about anyway, I thought that was later with the food. I think it's.
Oh yeah.
He says it's a very powerful.
Yeah, that was later.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Carry on.
A very powerful recruiting inducement, I believe. But no, she says Romulans we're often savage, but we're also many other pleasant things. That might be later too. Anyway, they visit Kirk in the brig, and he's acting totally out of it. Can relate to that. And so a call is sent to Dr. McCoy on the Enterprise. Meanwhile, Scotty's in command on the Enterprise, and he doesn't want to cooperate until he hears from Captain Kirk. He's such a loyal employee. But they tell Dr. McCoy that there's an injury on the Romulan ship. So and it's Captain Kirk. So McCoy beams over, And there's a brief interrogation with the Commander, Spock, McCoy, and Kirk being Shatner, doing a good job playing totally out of it. And he's suddenly incensed and rushes Spock because he can't stand the betrayal. And Spock instinctively reacts with that Vulcan death grip we all know so well. And Kirk falls over, apparently dead. And that's the end of Act 1.
Very nice. Real quick, Ruben, reach over to this side of the screen and do a death grip. I'm going to enact it. Hold on. Here we go. Oh, wait, wrong. All right, sorry. Carry
the original face hugger from Aliens, yeah.
So yeah, the death grip, and we think Kirk is dead, of course.
Yeah. We then cut to the sick bay, and there's Kirk laying motionless under a ghoulish green light. Chapel's examining him, and then his eyes pop open, and she realizes he's not dead. And McCoy comes in, and then the audience gets clued in that these guys were acting under secret Starfleet orders to to capture this cloaking device that they kind of talk about the cloaking device like it's a new thing, but we are aware of it from the first episode. I think the new part might be that it can evade sensors, not just visual.
Yeah, because before I guess you could kind of find it, find it.
Yeah.
The thing's got to have a tailpipe.
That's right. Yeah, I think in Balance of Terror they say we can aim with sensors rather than visual, but right. So McCoy brings her up to speed, and they decide the next part of the plan is sending, while Spock is dilly-dallying with the Romulan commander, send Kirk aboard after some surgery on his ears and his eyebrows, basically. So now he's looking just like a Romulan. At that point, there's that fun scene where they clue Scotty in, and he comes down and sort of is speechless for a moment when he sees William Shatner and in the ears and the standard Vulcan Romulan makeup. So Kirk goes over, and we get a series of scenes with the Romulan commander and Spock, and I think they're very sensitive scenes. I like how they're interacting, and she clearly is interested in him, and he's feigning interest in her, although I don't think it's totally feigned. Although he's got something in mind that he's after. I mean, the cloaking device, that's what he's after.
Right.
But involving and the scenes involve Tranya and Romulan ale, and changing into different outfits.
It's quite a lot of. There's quite a lot involved in Romulan.
The seduction of the commander.
The seduction. Yeah, it's like a lot of liquids, a lot of drinking going on.
yeah, a lot of food color. Food coloring is an aphrodisiac if you're a Romulan, I guess. So, meanwhile, Kirk is he's on board the Romulan vessel. Not sure how he got on there with the shields up, but he's but anyway, he transported aboard. We'll skip. There's so many things that don't quite make sense with this episode, but you go with it. And he knocks out a few guards, finds his way to the cloaking device, where we see Sargon and Nomad's, love child arranged on top of some pedestal there, and he knows this is it. This is what he's got to steal.
I knew that was Nomad. I had a feeling it was like, I guess it's like a kit bash in a weird way. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. Well, they were good at reusing stuff in the original series, and he's in communication with Spock, who is still trying to delay the commander, but in that course of that communication, Subcommander Tall, ever the alert and astute Romulan, realizes there's an alien transmission, and they march off to the commander's quarters to figure out what's going on. Kirk beams off with the cloaking device, trying to get Scotty to install it on the Enterprise, and the commander, betrayed by Spock, gives him a hearty slap across the face, one of many slaps that Spock gets.
Poor Spock, he is always getting slapped. It's true.
He is. So so Scotty's trying to install this thing. He has 15 minutes to do it, and meanwhile, Spock, before he gets horribly executed, details not necessary. He wants the Romulan right of statement, which is basically the Romulan right of boring podcast. So he's going on and on about
By the way,
his guilt.
Would that be right, like RITE or like a right, like our
No, I think
like
right, like Bill of Rights, or
okay,
I have
gotcha.
the
All
right
right,
to
all
this.
right, cool, cool.
But yeah, I mean, if there was incense or something, then I guess it'd be a right. But
It's
instead, it's
just...
the other kind of right. So. While they're installing the cloaking device, Chekhov is scanning for Spock to bring him home and beam him aboard. And they find him, and they start to beam him back. And the Romulan commander, a la Jillian in Star Trek 4, jumps on Spock.
I
And
wrote
they
the
both...
same. I wrote
Oh,
the
did you?
same note. Yes, that's funny.
They both get beamed. She did it first. They both get beamed back. I'm not sure how that works exactly. I guess the transporters can just deal with that, and it's not a horrible, mangled mess.
Commander Spurk out there who's a mix between the girl and the commander and Spock, a two mix monster in the Mirrorverse. He got beamed to the Mirrorverse.
Oh gosh, that's
it's tormenting the Mirrorverse right now.
Well, we got
with
back
with the face hug.
Yeah.
Thank God for the Heisenberg compensator. That's all I'll say.
That's
Thank
what
goodness.
fixed it. Yeah,
Yes,
that's what
true.
fixed it.
Those
Yeah,
Heisenberg
if you notice in that
compensators.
scene too, they didn't start the beaming effect on Spock. They only played the sound.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't have her jumping into the beam, I'm sure, special effects wise. So they were just like, yeah, just hold.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. You could do that in the remastering, but yeah, that's cool.
They probably could, yeah, easily.
Yeah, that's a good point. So now the Romulans are after the Enterprise, which is trying to zip away and get the cloaking device activated before they get destroyed, even knowing that the Romulan commander is on board. Tal is relentless, and he wants to take the Enterprise down. And I guess they have warp drive now, which is what they must have gotten in exchange for giving the Klingons. But this is all not said in the episode, because in Balance of Terror they didn't have warp drive, so they couldn't chase the Enterprise anywhere.
That. I didn't remember that. That's interesting.
Yeah, in fact, God knows how they got home in time. They'd still be on their way. But anyway, Scotty gets it to work, of course. So he plugs it in, flips the switch, the Enterprise disappears.
So cool.
And gets away. And we close with a nice little moment between Spock and the commander in the turbo lift, where he's basically reassuring her that even though he betrayed her and her people, she was a powerful influence on him. And they all know that this cloaking device, although we never see it again in the Federation, or at least not in original series, that they're going to penetrate the Romulans this secret. So it's not going to have we don't have to worry about it in future episodes. So writers, don't worry about it, is what they're saying. So,
well
but
done.
Yeah, that's about it.
Don't forget the little exchange at the end where Spock didn't like Kirk for the ears.
Oh yeah,
that's right. They're not aesthetically agreeable on humans. Yeah. Yeah.
Well done. Great summary. And it was short. It was short and sweet. It was like only a few minutes. That's great. Like,
it's good.
If I do the summary, it'll last the whole episode. So I'm always glad when someone takes up the charge and does it for me. Jace is here. Hello, Jason. He says, Starfleet boy, you look different without a beard. I know. It's quite dramatic. It's true.
He sent it to me in the mail, and I just I've been applying it all morning after you shaved.
Can you imagine?
Sent me the hair particles.
Weird that would be like.
But there's a transporter mix-up.
It's true. I've sent you my beard. Yeah, I'm like the lack beard in today's episode. Everyone else on the panel has a beard. This episode is one of my favorites from season 3. Kirk makes a good Romulan. He was great. Yeah, I liked the way he looked too. The look of him was good as a Romulan, and the shock of the crew when he comes on the bridge and stuff. That was a fun moment, and just like it was a neat way they were able to sprinkle some levity into a very serious kind of like episode, and I really thought that was very cool. Chris wants to know, is this our first appearance of Romulan Ale, which comes back in Star Trek 2, 5, 6, and Deep Space Nine? It might be. It's true.
Yeah, because it's the first time you see a blue liquid. So
yeah. I mean, it's not named, but we can.
I didn't have a chance to read the trivia on this episode, but I did see that DC Fontana based this on an actual incident called the Puebla incident, which took place during the Korean War, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't during the Korean War. It was in the 60s. It happened like within the last 12 months. But there was a United States ship that was it was a communication ship, and it was essentially they were spying, but they were boarded and taken over by North Koreans, and the crew was held, I think, for about a year before being released. The ship was never given back. I mean, the Pueblo is still in North Korean hands, but yeah, no, it was a big diplomatic incident. In fact, she was going to call this episode Ears, but because the Pueblo incident it started to be referred to as the Pueblo incident by the media show, so she renamed it the Enterprise incident. So,
It's cool.
yeah.
How cool that it's like such a relevant, like they were able to make an episode of something that just happened, like in current, like literally,
Yeah.
like what did you say, like 12 months ago or whatever? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it
like
was
so a year
it was
prior,
within the
which is
past
very
year
cool.
or so.
Yeah, I can't think of another example of that off the top of my head, but I'm sure Star Trek has done it before. And of course, well, the new shows kind of, Discovery kind of has a, like kind of incorporates like things like the pandemic, of course, and stuff like that, but in a Star Trek twist. Yeah. What did you guys think of this episode overall?
I like it. I think it's a good episode. It's one of the better of season 3 for certain.
Is it all downhill from here? No, I'm just kidding. No, I think there's going to be a few good ones.
The next one's a steep fall.
Geez.
That's for sure.
Is that and the children shall lead? Is that what?
Yeah, I think that. No. The Paradise. Is it the
Paradise Syndrome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I did have a look today. Because obviously I was watching it on my Blu-ray, and you have the remastered and the original. Now, in the original, you had 3 D7s, and in the remastered, you have 2 D7s and a Romulan bird of prey.
That's correct.
So they've changed it up slightly, but in the original, it was just 3 D7s.
The lead ship ends up being the bird of prey that we saw, which I think is a good move, considering I think that they was it you who was saying on Twitter, Commander, they had lost the model, right, or something like that, and so.
It either got stolen or it's got and lost in a fire, or they're not quite sure what happened to it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that touch too of them putting the old bird of prey in there. Although when they showed the bird of prey originally in Balance of Terror, you get the feeling it's a very cramped, submarine-y type ship. So you kind of feel like the D7 version, there's a little more room. I mean, you see a lot more decks and stuff like that. In Enterprise incidents. So I think they were probably on one of the D7s. But even with those old effects, some of those shots of like when they were initially appearing surrounding the Enterprise, and you just see the kind of the forward section of one appear at the top of the screen and the other two are on the sides. Those are very convincing. Those are great effects for their day. They still hold up.
They were very good.
Oleg is saying, I know these ships were reused and all, but the first time I saw this episode, it was very interesting for me. Like, I knew those models are Klingon, but why are Romulans using them? Yeah, and it's an interesting little tidbit to say that they were exchanging technology and stuff like that, and possibly forming.
Well, in my headcanon, it's the only way to explain how Klingons ever got into space to begin with.
It's like
their society makes no sense to me. You can't be a scientist in a Klingon society. You're a
wimp.
Yes,
you can.
You're a fucking wimp.
There are Klingon scientists. We have them.
Yeah, but most scientists don't also wield batleths with precision, murderous precision, and have to do that all the time to prove themselves.
Star Trek does focus on the warrior aspect of Klingon society. I wish they would expand more, because there is more.
It's ridiculous, man.
I think in beta canon, what happened is the Klingons gave them the D7s, and the Romulans gave the Klingons the Cloaking Device. I think that.
See, and I feel like it would make sense for the Romulans to have given the stuff to the Klingons to use them in some sort of war at some point, because the Klingons are very good at melee combat, war, and Romulans are smarter and a little bit more, strategic.
It's very interesting how it pans out. I mean, because the Klingons we're describing weren't really the Klingons of the original series. They weren't really like the honor war. I mean, you can really make a case that the Romulans and the Klingons kind of switched roles between the original series and the Next Generation, where the original Romulans were kind of more the strict honor, warrior society, but honest in a way, and the Klingons were more kind of sneaky and subterfuge, and they're turning people against. You can't trust them. They're, it's not strictly one or the other, but I feel like later on, they really leaned into Klingons being the warrior culture thing, and Romulans being more like the Soviet Union kind of state police, kind of the sneaky thing going on. So,
but I feel like the Romulans now, the TNG era Romulans, match better with these Romulans than the TNG Klingons match better with these Klingons.
Yeah.
Well,
it was all round about the search for Spock where it all changed, because originally it was meant to be the Romulans. Hence, you had the bird of prey. Yeah. That was what it was going to be, and then they changed it because they thought, well, nobody's really going to remember the Romulans, so they changed it to Klingons.
They're the most memorable. I love the Romulans. It's so funny.
I also often wonder, like, to what extent some of these things are driven by something as simple as the makeup. I mean, once they changed the makeup for the Klingons to be the giant forehead and like the big,
more aggressive
muscles and stuff, you can't really have them be these sneaky guys who plant things in Tribble quarter, in the Tribble storage space, and make deals with the people on the alien planet. It doesn't work anymore. They've got to be warriors. I mean, it's just it's sort of by the makeup. But
Chris says now what happens at the end of this episode isn't it important for later on with the Pegasus, and explaining how the Defiant gets to borrow a cloaking device from the Romulans in DS9. Yeah, it all kind of connects. I feel like I'm sure the Daystrom Institute or Starfleet intelligence got a hold of this cloaking device and start that the project that led to the Pegasus's phase cloak probably started here. But there is a treaty, Ulysses mentioned it, the Treaty of Aldran. Which is supposed to prevent the Federation from using
Starfleet using it.
My new headcanon after rewatching this episode, that never happened because this episode led to a war, an intergalactic war, after Kirk kidnapped, broke into Romulan territory, stole technology, kidnapped the commander, like espionage feature. I mean, like, this is like every war crime you could do.
It does seem pretty unlikely that they wouldn't have gone. I mean, what would it have taken to make them go to war if not something like this? But yeah.
We have Tal wins the eyeshadow contest in the audience. Howdy, that's a great screen name as always. That's very funny.
Oh, I don't know. I think Kirk was up there with the eyeshadow.
Yeah, Kirk had pretty good eyeshadow.
Kirk looked great as a Romulan. Sure.
But Tal did win. Chris also says, I say this episode, Day of the Dove and the Savage Curtain are some of the best episodes of season 3. I remember the Savage Curtain. I don't remember the Day of the Dove, which one that one was. But Savage Curtain, of course, is Space Lincoln.
Yeah.
Which will...
For me, going forward, it's one of my favourites. It'll always be from when I was a child, Spectre of the Gun.
Oh, cool! I don't remember that one either. Like, I've seen them all, but I can't remember exactly what happens to them. So I'm looking forward to
where Star Trek ends up at the OK Corral.
Oh yes, no, I know it now. Okay, yes, I do know that episode very well. Yeah. Sorry, I just didn't realize it was the same episode I was thinking of. That's cool. EGT says Romulan allowed the Defiant to utilize the cloaking device. Oh, that was in the they had an escort basically, right? They had like a Romulan escort and stuff like that in that episode. It was cool.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Let's see here. The Klingons could have back engineered Herc tech. What was that?
Well, that's what Father told me once, that the Klingons learned a lot from the Herc.
Oh, they were
dominated them, or at one point in time.
Did they share?
What's
I forgot.
Herc?
Yeah,
I think it's some novel or something. The Herc take over, or like the Klingons' main enemy for a while, who dominated the Klingons, and then the Klingons kind of overthrew them.
Oh,
interesting. I may be completely off about that, but that's what I remember Father telling me.
I vaguely heard about the Herc.
Because I made a joke about how I don't see how you could be a Klingon scientist or even a Klingon janitor. Like, you need janitors in the world, dude. You know what I mean? You can't expect the janitor to be a murder machine with a bat lift.
Have you seen?
Klingons are the cleanest people in the world.
Yeah, have you seen a Klingon ship? There's like gawk all over the floor. I doubt that they care.
And blood wine and all that stuff.
Well, Romulans are clean.
I feel like two Klingon engineers would be debating on how to fix the ship, and they'd have to go to fight each other and kill each other, and then the one that wins gets to choose. But he was wrong, so the ship blows up. Or like they're at a toy store grabbing the last Power Ranger. two Klingon moms, Oh, and they pull out the bat'leths. Cling, cling, cling. Ah, for honor.
I thought I thought it was interesting that it would take 3 weeks for a message to get to Starfleet headquarters via subspace. Like, I think it is interesting how like that like range changes depending on the
according to the needs of the story.
But I wonder. I'm sure someone on YouTube, probably EC Henry or someone like that, has done like actual estimates of what it would take for messages to go from certain points in to others.
Well, it's like on the one hand, you figure the neutral zone's got to be pretty far out there, but on the other hand, their first war with the Romulans was a long time ago, so maybe it's not that far because they couldn't have been expanded that. But it's whatever the story needs. That's fine.
It's true.
Well, and it's not really like a perfect like
Yeah.
squares either, right? So like they're on one part of the neutral zone that's extra far from Starfleet, because they are exploring like the distant space, right?
True.
Yeah.
Ulysses says the Herc were made canon in DS9 with the Sword of Kayla's episode. That's very cool.
Yeah, I sort of block out Klingon episodes.
Wow. Okay.
I do. I've gotten over them. I'm like, oh my god, here we go again.
They are ubiquitous.
Like they're comically like honorable. Like I enjoy Romulans more because they seem more like a rounded or Cardassians.
It's like Trek on the Tube is tired of everything in Star Trek being about Spock, he says, like basically, but it's kind of like you can watch Star Trek from Spock's perspective, and he touches like basically every show, or every era at least. He doesn't come on DS9 and Voyager, but he's probably mentioned. So that'd be a fun thing to do, is to like create a.
I'd tell you what, for somebody who's meant to be so logical, he's very good at seduction.
Oh yeah.
Because, I mean, no pun intended, but he literally had her in the palm of his hand. He really did.
Spock seduced fans too. Like there, I think there's a famous incident of like Leonard Nimoy getting more fan mail than William Shatner.
Because William Shatner didn't like that at all.
Leonard
got the vast majority of fan mail.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because Shatner, to a certain degree, is playing a kind of typical character for that era of TV, where Spock is really something different compared to most characters on TV. Shatner's just a classic hero, in a lot of ways, where Spock is like this weird alien guy who's like not emotional, but he is, and blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of this more stuff to kind of dig into and be like, oh, I want to know more about this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
At first,
50 Shades of Green.
At first, I think Leonard Nimoy was not looking forward to the episode because DC Fontana, her initial script got not rewritten, but stuff was added to it, and they went overboard a little on some of the seduction scenes. Like it got a little more tradition, kissing, et cetera, et cetera. But once they kind of revised it to really put that emphasis on the hands, which, he had worked out from before with, the mind melds or the sign or that kind of thing, then he felt like it was more in keeping with it was more restrained, it was more in keeping and more aliens. So he ended up liking the episode a lot. I think those scenes between them are great. I mean, their conversation seems very natural. I mean, and it's interesting to hear them talk about like Earth or the Federation, and there's no one present from that. It's two aliens talking about humans. There's no humans around. So
a really great point. I totally love that. In the chat we have 6 Degrees of Spock is the name of the game to play. That'll be fun. What did you guys think of the music in this episode? Alexander Courage came back to do extra cues for this, so that was pretty cool. I did think it was a little much that every time we cut to the shots of the ships,
yeah. I don't think it's his greatest score, but as you said, he hadn't been involved with the show since the first season, so I guess it's nice to have him.
It was cool, yeah.
Have him back. I like some of the more muted stuff between Spock and the commander, but. Yeah, but it's fine. It's a new score. That's new. It seemed new. It was new at the time, and it was complete for that episode. It wasn't tracked. So
totally. Do you think Spock could have done a better job at, or was he doing a great job? Do you think of like, because Kirk, he was supposed to, I forget what it was, but he was supposed to set it up so that Kirk could beam aboard, and he was distracted and couldn't do that. And so when he talks to Kirk, he's like, "Are you aboard?"
yeah.
And Kirk's like, "Yeah, I beamed aboard. What are you doing?" he's like, "I'm sorry, Captain. I was having pon far and drinking Romulan ale and talking about Earth and humans and the Federation."
Spock shows up with like beads around him, like a tattoo. He's like, yeah. Sunglasses. He's like a tan and stuff. He's like, "Oh, sorry, Captain. I was busy."
Were you guys ever worried that Spock, I mean, we know from the benefit of having seen a lot more Star Trek, but like, were you worried that Spock was tempted or was he going to defect when you first saw this episode?
Oh gosh, well,
I was young. Yeah, I mean, I was young when I saw it. So yeah, I mean, when I saw it later, you sort of, and I'd already knew the outcome. But I think, yeah, if he wasn't tempted, he made a very good show of it, because basically they were. I mean, she was laying it on thick as well, trying to get him to come over. And
yeah, that's what I was trying to imagine when it first aired. It must have been an interesting episode to watch as a viewer. And we do have Tal wins the eyeshadow contest. Please chime in if you can remember when you first watched it. But like, it does play very well. Like, I had, if I suspended my knowledge, like I thought it was like, oh, like, she's making a very tempting offer, and he seems very convinced about it, and she's appealing to his logic. But of course, by season 3, I mean, you would, I guess, expect Spock to be supremely loyal and not truly.
Well, even if you expect it, I mean, it's interesting, and it's interesting how they just start the episode where something's wrong, something you don't know why Kirk is behaving like this, and they don't clue you in, the audience I'm talking about. They don't clue you in until sort of McCoy gives a brief explanation to Chapel. So
Chapel,
even though okay, yeah, everyone's going to be fine at the end of the episode, and we'll go on to the next one. It is an unusual start where the audience is kept in the dark with what's actually going on in the plot like that. It kind of would have been interesting if they'd done that more, but they really start in the middle of it.
I think, yeah, because Spock was the perfect foil for that one. Being the logical, he would not give anything away. So it looked like it just was Kirk that was just losing it. And they I mean, they were both in on it, but you never got it. You never felt it was that way, especially, when he's being abrupt on the bridge, and he's even having a dig at Spock when he's saying, I've already done the scan. Well, do it again. That type of thing. He just had a go at Chekhov, and then he's having a go at Spock, and you think, okay,
yeah,
what's going on? And there's no way you knew that Spock was in on it. It wasn't until, like you said, McCoy explained it that they were both in on it. I think in that respect, it was very well done.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. But also, one of the things that I loved about this episode was finally seeing the kind of more of the interior of a Romulan ship, even though it was just a redress of the Enterprise sets. It was neat. They did do a good job of like lighting it different, and then the cloaking device room did look different enough. I thought, like, even though you could tell it was still the engineering panels with the lights and everything,
I feel like the orb was like a brain or something in some other previous episode.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Sub Commander had mentioned earlier, it's a kit bash between Sargon and Nomad. So it's the head of Nomad on top of the Sargon sphere. I need to get that sphere. I feel like it's really pretty. Like, it light it up. It should make really nice. Maybe make a really nice chandelier. Maybe it was a chandelier. Who knows? Like, it could have been a chandelier.
I think it was the last dragon egg.
Yeah, I think you can get those at Pier 1. I don't think they're too hard to track down, or World Market or someplace like that.
I wonder if this episode in any way was a little inspired the episode later on of TNG with Deanna Troi going undercover as a Romulan. Because that episode starts off kind of like she wakes up, she's already a Romulan. True. You don't know what's really going on. The audience is like, what's going on? And then you learn little by little.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
And again, I think they probably use it again with Kira being a Cardassian as well. as well when they do that with
That's
Kieran.
right. That's right. That's another good episode. Lots of good episodes of people waking up as other
different
species.
Yeah.
Chris says, I like that this episode does not reveal the plot twist in the episode. Yeah, it's like it's really cool that it unfolds before us. I also took a note. Hold on. Oh, my notes.
I think it also plays on, obviously, with the Commander and the Vulcan, where they actually do say that they came from the same bit and separated their own bits. I think they play on that more. But wasn't that obviously with the Mark Leonard episode? Wasn't that first brought up then?
Yeah, they mentioned it, but it was sort of they look exactly the same, so you kind of it's hard not to believe. But I think when they mentioned it in the original series, the implication is that it happened thousands of years back when Vulcan was in its what does he say in Balance of Terror, was in its primitive colonizing period or something like that. I don't know how the canon has worked out now to where that split was.
I think they probably when they're going for the logic, aren't they? When they break and they become logical, and the other ones aren't, so they go off and they become obviously.
I think the implication. There's something that Narek says. I have to go back and watch it to get the exact wording of it. But the implication is that both Vulcans and Romulans have a common ancestor.
Our ancestors had the same roots and forebears as the line.
Right, and like and I also see as like the ancestor created some form of rudimentary space travel. Launched the ship, it landed on Romulus, and then they couldn't, something happened where they couldn't communicate because it was rudimentary space travel, and then the two kind of went off in their own.
And then it seems that the Romulans maybe found other species, like perhaps that they commingled with, and we get the Mintakans and other like offshoots of pointy-eared Remans, of course. Yeah, the Remans are a big mystery to me because they have like weird. They're very weird. I guess they're not mentioned. Are they? I think the first time they came up is like in the FASA role-playing game, if I'm not mistaken. That's maybe where the Remans got invented, and I don't think they had quite a dramatic like Nosferatu appearance. I
always see it as Romulans are like Vulcans are high elves, Romulans are like wood elves, and then Remans are dark elves.
Dark elves. That's a really good way of looking at it if you're gonna compare it to Dungeons and Dragons or fantasy, I suppose. There is a headcanon thing that I love to do, which is the elves in Lord of the Rings are departing the shores of Middle Earth and heading into the west to Valinor. I think it's called Valinor or whatever. I always imagine that it's just metaphor for they're traveling to space and they're going to another planet. They're leaving Earth altogether and going to another planet, and that other planet is Vulcan, and so it's all connected. Now we've got
the other elves went off to Romulus. So
exactly, exactly. The Sindarin elves went to Romulus.
Not sure the Tolkien estate will buy that, but
once Disney owns it all, they'll make it happen.
No.
Question for the three of you. Question for the three of you then. Just in COS, forget about all the rest. Forget about what came after.
Yeah.
Who is the
I like
better
it already.
protagonist?
Yeah,
who
go.
are the better protagonists? The Klingons or the Romulans?
Oh, I vote Romulans.
Yeah, I'll have to say. Oh, the Klingons are interesting in TOS too, though.
I just find it so interesting, the Romulans, even just the simple fact that they had a woman commander in the 60s.
Yeah.
They're the most progressive species in the show.
Yeah, even sadly, which needs to be retconned in my opinion.
Right,
but,
it's so weird. It's so weird to me.
The Federation and
I'm kind of like, I think the Romulans are better than the Federation. It's kind of weird. I'm feeling weird. I don't like this feeling.
Well, I mean, I think I mean, I like the Romulans. I think over the course of just the original series, I mean, the Klingons appear so much more, and they're more, the more reliable sort of adversary. But I think, a lot of the things that we later began to associate with the Klingons that we thought were interesting, as you pointed out, Ian, started as Romulan things. I mean, the fact that they had a neutral zone, the fact that they had the bird of prey and the cloaking device, these things all became, Klingon stuff later. But I think, and we only see them in 2 episodes, and then they're referred to in maybe a couple more, or their ship appears in Deadly Years and that kind of thing. But I think just in those couple appearances, they're very, very memorable, and part of it is just helped that the actors that they got were just so good.
I think Mark Leonard really did set the tone, didn't he, as the commander in the first episode.
Yeah, and I think I mean, in this episode, I think Joanne Linville has a wonderful stage presence, and Jack Donner as Sub Commander Tall is like the best supporting character ever. So it's
no, I know those cool like helmets that they wear. Those that the guards wear.
Yeah,
those
the guards. Yeah,
they're so cool.
Yeah, he does do a good job though with a fairly minor role of like showing a sort of logical side, but that being angry and seething underneath. I think that it comes across well for a small part. So I mean, I'll vote for the Romulans, but if I'm being kind of practical,
for me,
Klingons were more reliable.
Yeah, I find in some of them that the Romulans were a bit comical. Sorry, the Klingons. Sorry, were
Klingons were comical.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The Romulans were far. For me, they were a bit scarier than the Klingons were.
Yeah.
I think because of it and the way they were. I mean, yes, they made the Klingons more scary after TOS and after the animated not till TMP and everything else. But for me, for the TOS period, I think the Romulans are the better. And unfortunate that I feel that they weren't used enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But the Romulans had the interesting benefit of that weird connection with Vulcans too, where like you've seen what Spock can do throughout the series. Yeah. So when you see them on screen, you're like, damn, they're equivalent to Spock. Whereas Klingons kind of look just like pudgy humans for the most part. Yeah. Well, in this series, the Romulans, when they come in, it's always like, oh shit, it's the evil Vulcans.
Yeah, and part of that reason is because just it may not seem like a lot of makeup to us at the time, but the prosthetic work was just more expensive. They could, I mean, it was easier to just put the eyebrows or the fake goatee on someone, or apply a little face paint, and then make the Klingon. Yeah. But the
even
ears,
TNG,
that was hard.
Even TNG, if you think about it, aside from the Klingons, it's always just a squiggly thing on the nose, a little thing here. They try not to go too crazy most of the time because money.
Yeah.
Because budget. This is the first time we ever see the Enterprise go to Warp 9. Is that so?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. What was your thoughts on that? Will we see the Enterprise go off the dials and by any other name? I thought the Enterprise hit Warp 14 or something like that in a past.
Well, they do. I think they go over Warp 10, don't they?
Yeah, or something like that.
With the Kelvins, they go.
Oh, right.
The Kelvins.
Right. The good old Kelvins. I loved I don't remember the original effects, but I really loved in the remaster. The battle was just exciting. Like, it was very well done. Like, when the Enterprise goes to warp, it's like you see it like go, and then like the ships are like they shrink. They fall behind and they shrink really quickly, like you would expect. And then the battle itself was very awesome, because when the Enterprise cloaks, it veers off course, and you see the Romulan warbird continue on its course and firing torpedoes at nothing.
Unfortunately, you don't see that in the original. You see the D7, well, whatever you want to call it, the warbird that flies off, but you don't see like when the Enterprise warps out, you don't see that getting smaller, and all you see is the D7 just gets fly off into space. You don't see anything being shot. You don't see the torpedoes. You don't see any of that. But that's all in the remastered.
So they took a lot of liberty, but I love it. I think it turned out great, and I think for newer audiences have higher expectations, and it's unfortunate, because I think it'd be nice if people could appreciate the original effects and stuff like that, but I think this makes it more enticing for folks to come and see, because really the wealth of the story is in the performances and like the, you know, like I'm okay with the effects being amped up a little just to get it, to make it more exciting for
well,
new
they don't
viewers.
overdo it in these remasters.
No, they really don't. I think they do it
just
really
enough
well.
to be like, just, you know,
Enhance,
clean it up.
It does enhance it, yeah.
Right, without adding some like giant like monster in the back or some crazy for no reason. You know what I mean? Like just going like overboard. Like, no, just clean it up. The story is all you really need. So like, just make it look prettier. A little bit.
I mean, a lot of it was. I mean, they used. I mean, the remastered is sort of the backgrounds, like when they beam down to a planet or something, you get more in the background, or you have a bit more, obviously, with the starship itself, and you get that little bit more with the Enterprise Instant as well, because at least you get the bird of prey back in the episode, whereas it was lost before.
Tal wins the eyeshadow contest says, I think that Spock is telling the commander at the end that he is still in love for real and will be for some time. She, however, is no longer into it after his betrayal. The elevator scene is fire. Yeah, it was a good scene. Romulans in TOS and TNG, Klingons in DS9 and the films. Cool. So yeah, agreed with the Romulans in TOS. I like that the Romulans got less screen time in Star Trek, so they stayed a mystery in Star Trek versus the Klingons. Yeah, it's a good point.
Probably in that respect, because of that, they're more memorable.
Yeah, I think they have really good episodes. I detested the Romulans in Picard except for Laris and Javan. Not enjoyable in any way. I love Laris and Javan. They are cool. But yeah, we only see like the worst other Romulans. We don't really see like a lot of other Romulans. We see Narek and Narissa. By the way, the guard in the cloaking device room had the same kind of wild hairstyle that Narek kind of has in Star Trek Picard. So another headcanon is that's Narek's grandfather, as far as I'm concerned.
Actually, you say that scene though. I actually quite like that scene because Kirk says to him, "They're after the cloaking device," and the guy looks at it and he goes, so that's the cloaking device." Because he obviously
that's interesting. Yeah,
interesting. And he used it, and that was quite clever, I thought.
Yeah, it's very cool. Seems the Kelvins had tech to avoid the salamander issue. It's true. What else did you guys like or dislike about this episode? Any other thoughts as we approach the hour mark?
I don't think there's much to dislike about it.
Yeah,
I think it was well done. The pacing was really good. I thought. I don't know what you guys think, but I thought it was paced and it seemed to go like that. Whereas sometimes you think, has it been 40 minutes yet, or this seems like a bit longer than they usually are? But the pacing, everything with it, I thought it's an enjoyable episode, and it sets more tropes up for later for TNG. We learn a bit more about the Romulans themselves.
I think one other thing that's nice about it is seeing Scotty in command again, and how he's shows his sort of stubborn loyalty to Captain Kirk, and puts the two Romulan hostages in the brig, and then has to make this cloaking device work in 15 minutes, which seems unbelievable, but somehow he gets it done. And
this is the best guess I've ever made, Captain. It
will probably blow up. It'll probably overload, but of course it works. So
yeah, that was an exciting scene. Yeah. And the tech was cool. He's like messing with little pins and stuff in there, and like you can really get the sense.
Oh, you mean the Watchman screwdrivers? It's amazing what you can do with calipers and Watchman screwdrivers.
Very true, very true. That is another good moment. And actually, come to think of it, like pretty much everyone had a little something to do. Like Chekhov was the one who located Spock. On the ship. Uhura and Scotty were having some, interesting moments together. Chapel was in it. There was a lot of a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people were in this episode, so it was pretty cool in terms of teamwork.
That's one thing. One thing I noticed on this one was Uhura's uniform. The Delta all of a sudden was right up on the collar. No, I don't remember it being like that.
She was hung over that morning when she put it on.
But yeah, it's
I think that's for in season 3. I mean, I don't know if they still were doing it with these uniforms, but for the velour uniforms in the first 2 seasons, they had to unsew those when they dry clean them and then sew them back on every single time.
Oh, geez,
yeah,
I didn't know
I don't
that.
know if they had to do it with these polyester ones, but I feel like yes, in season 3 you see it up there a little bit more than in the
Yeah,
previous
it's sitting
2.
right up against her collar. I didn't realize that.
And then you also see kind of like the seams of the, I don't know, the fabric, these lines like radiating off it more. But
I am so excited for Strange New Worlds. We're gonna get more Uhura action with Celia Rose Gooding playing Uhura, and it's gonna be neat. Like it's interesting how like we've gotten like our TOS crew recast a bunch of times now. So this will be the third recasting of the TOS crew. So it's gonna be cool to see, how the new actors will bring their own spins to these iconic characters. It's also interesting that these characters are so iconic that like they just go on. Like, you know what I mean? Like they no longer belong to the original actors, even though I would love that. Like to me, Kirk, for me, Kirk will always be Shatner, and the whole crew, all these guys will always be the
Chris Pine. I quite like Chris Pine. I think
as a person, Chris Pine might be a little more palatable than William Shatner for many people.
He's a different type of Kirk, though, isn't he? He's not trying to be Shatner. He is a different Kirk. Whereas Zoe Saldana is Uhura's really.
They're all very different. Well. I think Carl Urban is probably the most caricaturish of them all, but I think they all did a good job of just like sprinkling in a little bit of a few performance nuances from the previous actors into their performances, but also making it very new. And again, Ethan Peck is doing the same thing with Spock on Discovery and Strange New World. So
it's easier for Ethan Peck because it'd been about 7-8 people that played Spock anyway before he got to it. It's true. You think it was about 4 actors that played Spock in The Search for Spock.
So that's a good point.
Fine. All these people play Spock before you've got there, so it's not too bad.
But I mean, truly, William Shatner, and I think this is another great example of like when he's firing on all cylinders, he's superb. I thought he was fantastic, and for me in this episode, like he's just so great. Like just his facial expressions, like his cunning it's all through his eyes. Like
No, I mean the guy has an energy that he put into that character that is fairly unique. I mean, I like Chris Pine, and I think just the abstract of those 3 characters, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, I mean that whole Trinity, that's going to be appealing no matter who plays it. I mean, it's just set up for success, the contrast there, but I think so much of Shatner went into Kirk, and as someone who just saw him a couple weekends ago, he can be a grumpy old man at this point and say some controversial things. I'm still going to love him, so it's
well, he's in his 90s. He's going to say whatever he feels like now, isn't he? So
he's kind of he's at that age.
Yeah, that's right.
You say that though, we're talking about him there. He's 90. How much energy has this man still got after all these years?
It's ridiculous. Yeah, and totally coherent too. I mean, when I saw him speak, I mean, he doesn't hear as well as he used to, and for sure he'll like take a minute to find he forgets proper names, but like you can talk about anything. I mean, you can talk about killer whales, or you can talk about Indo-European languages. You can talk about this, and he's totally with you, and he has opinions about it and comments that are interesting. So he's mentally he's I mean, amazing for the age that he is.
And again, I understand that like a lot of people today see him on Twitter and don't like some of the things that he has to say, but he's been an explorer in a sense. Both he and Leonard Nimoy, I feel like they really through doing narrations for documentary style films and shows, they've really learned a lot. Like they've kind of touched on everything. Like for Leonard Nimoy, it was that show In Search Of, I think, right? Do you guys remember?
Yeah.
In Search Of. And then William Shatner, I even saw a really cool interview he did with the late Sir Stephen Hawking, which is amazing that he got to like do that. And he asked some really
he used
good
to have that
questions,
really cool talk show.
Oh,
Raw Nerve.
The weird seats.
Raw Nerve. Yeah, those were weird seats. That's true.
Yeah, I always remember that.
So
I mean, I'll always cherish when I met him at a con and I got to touch him.
You're so lucky.
And when he liked my tweet, my reply to him on I made a joke. I made a joke about a sequel to Incubus on all Esperanto. And I wrote the joke. Half the joke was in Esperanto, so he was like, he liked it. I was like, oh shit,
okay.
William Shatner liked my tweet.
Yeah.
You can say whatever racist shit you want, William Shatner.
Well, I must admit, I wasn't enamored with his one-man show bit because I actually saw it. I actually was there, and I felt there. But on the last, I think it was the last cruise. Yeah, it was the last cruise that I went on. He's there, and we've all settled down, and he comes up, and after a couple of minutes, she goes, Star Trek, Star Trek, Star, and he got the whole audience chanting Star Trek.
That's amazing.
Saying how tribal it could be and everything else that way. So it was, he has his ways, and it's I think how he injects humor when he's up there, how he can inject humor is good. So
as for Chris Pine, I think he did a fine job. I don't really fault him as much as the material. He didn't have as much to work with as Shatner got to work with over the years.
Sure.
I mean, just in terms of even just sheer volume, Shatner had more chances to do better things,
Yeah. 79 episodes. How many films was it?
6 films.
6, no, 7.
7.
And Shatner apparently approved of Chris Pine's performance as well. He gave it his thumbs up, and I think they're friends. They're friends to kind of.
Well, he interviewed Chris Pine in the captain's captain's table or whatever it was. So they have spoken. So yeah.
He has that cool documentary where he interviews all the captains.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
He has the Chaos on the Bridge documentary that's fantastic about the first 3 seasons of TNG.
That's right. Yeah.
He loves that style, the explore. I feel like people who do documentaries are explorers in a way, you know what I mean? Because that's what documentaries are. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's curious about everything.
Any other comments, Dom Commander Sub, about this episode before we give it our ratings?
No, I agree with everybody. I think the pacing is perfect. It's stuffed with things, like it doesn't ever bog down. Since most of these episodes don't have a B plot most of the time, they always have a period where there's something missing. It feels like where like the episode's kind of lulling down because they're like, shit, we're trying to fill it with just this one story. This one doesn't have that problem at all. I do have tons of questions about the ramifications of everything that happens in this episode. That's what really got me at the end. I was like, what in the hell? Like, Kirk just violated so many crimes right now.
Well, he was sanctioned by Starfleet, so it was very important to Starfleet to get this cloaking device. So I'm sure everything was neatly scrubbed under the diplomatic rug, so to speak. And
and this one does have a heavy B story too, with Spock and the commander. So yeah, I love it. It's one of my watching it today. It's like definitely one of my favorite TOS episodes.
Right on. Audience, chime in with your ratings. We have this one. This is one of my 10 out of 10 episodes. Unlike Starfleet Boy, I don't have a lot of those. Well, no surprise. This is also. It's true. I have a reputation. It's true. But this one gets a 10 out of 10 from me as well. So.
But remember, the day he gives something a 9.5, that's like, whoa. Whoa.
I have to go back and actually.
We need positivity in the world. You go ahead and give it your 10.
Thank you. What do you say about this on a scale of 1 to 10? Sub Commander, would you like to go first?
Sure. I've always liked this episode a lot, and I told you when I first joined with your group here that when I picked my handle, it was not because I was obsessed with Romulans or Sub Commander Tall, but I wanted to pick something sort of random. But since I and I figured it was a name not a lot of people have, but since I picked it, I feel a real connection to this episode, this
That's
character
awesome.
now. I don't know if I'd give it a 10. I'd probably give it a 9. I think some of the I don't know, some parts are maybe not super believable, but yeah, the acting is really good. I mean, I love the presence of the guest stars. I love seeing I think the visual effects are great. The world building, especially with the Klingon Romulan alliance sort of stuff. Although they don't explain it a lot, but it sets the ground for so much stuff that comes later. And the pacing's good, and it's a different kind of Star Trek episode. I mean, like we covered starting in the middle and not revealing actually what's going on, and gives these actors a lot to explore. So yeah, no, I always tune in for this one. The music could be a little better, but yeah,
dun, 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 dun,
yeah, 9 out of 10 for me.
9 out of 10. Dadmiral, what do you give it?
I'm going to go slightly better. I'm going to go 9.5.
Nice.
So I'm giving it the lowest score. Okay, all right.
Well, wait, we didn't get Ruben's score yet.
Oh yeah, sorry. Right.
We've got Ruben to come. Yeah. No, as I think we've said it all. There's very little not to like about it. It is a good, solid one, and I think when you do a list of people saying, what episode should I watch for TOS? I think this is probably one of those episodes that you'd put on that list. I think you'd put this and Balance of Terror would be ones that you say, yeah, these are the must-watch TOS episodes. So yeah, for me, it's up there and it's in the top 10 of TOS episodes.
Very cool. And Ruben, what do you give this episode?
Man, yeah, this is a fantastic episode. I can't see my score because it cloaked. But it's a great. I mean, it's a great episode. It's solid throughout. So my nitpick issues of ramifications aside, there's not really much I can pick about this episode. I mean, it's just done really well. It's one of the best, and it's fascinating to me. Like, I would love to see a modern show be as schizophrenic as going from Spock's brain to this to next week. I would be losing my mind as a fan of the show at the time. I'd be like, what's going on here? Get your shit together, guys.
Well, for this episode, they actually took their tablets. So that's probably why.
But yeah, great episode.
Excellent. Audience gives it about 8s, and Jill and I have given it a 10, which is cool. So we're the two tenors over here. So it trumps everyone else's rating, and no, I'm just kidding. But overall rated pretty high, which is fantastic. Audience, thank you so much for joining us and for participating in the chat. It was really lovely reading your comments and interacting with you guys. So thank you for showing up. We really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you next week. This was a lot of fun, guys. Thank you for coming. Don't worry. I didn't forget. I'm saving you for last, but this time I won't. Yeah, and audience, stick around please stick around because we're going to be playing a trailer for Trek Cat's latest video as well. So you can check out this guy over here, Ruben, at ruben-writes.com. You have anything current to promote?
I have a bunch of interviews coming out. I interviewed like 7 people last week.
Right on. So just
not last week, the week before.
And you update the site, right?
Not really.
Well, okay, so you can also
just go to my Twitter.
Just go to Ruben's Twitter, which is at rmartian. Is his handle, and he'll post his latest articles up there. And then we've got Subcommander Tall, who you can also find on Twitter as Subcommander Tall, which is very cool. And also tonight, I don't know if you're going to be there, but you can see him decloak every now and then for TOS Saturday night. And I don't know what episode they're doing, but I think they started the rotation again or something.
They did. So it's Mud's Women like, tonight, so I don't know if I'm going to tune into that. But go to my Twitter page, and I was recently at the Star Trek tour up in
that's very cool.
And wrote some posts about that, which
if you're interested, I do a daily note. It's like a little quick newsletter, and I featured that in a previous issue. You can look at all the past issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. No, my pleasure. And then I'm very lucky to have a pool of people to like fill content with. You guys are wonderful content creators, so I appreciate it. And then of course we have our Dadmiral, who is known as Trek Cat before he was the Dadmiral, and he's got a wonderful channel where he builds using Lego and other blocks. And I'm going to play the trailer for the latest build right now. Hold on. Here it comes.
This is for you, Subcommander Tom.
Yay. And it's very relevant to this episode. So here we go. That's a really beautiful
yeah.
build. It's very nice. Good job on the trailer too. Your photography's even gotten. It seems like it's more HD this
Well, I'm glad you
week.
saw it because I didn't see it. It said my browser didn't play it, so I didn't see it. So thankfully, I made it.
Oh, you didn't see it on your.
I saw it.
Oh,
I saw it on
I
mine.
saw it.
Oh, okay, good.
Saw it, it's the main thing. But,
Yeah,
well,
I
I
love
just-
the
I
hint of
just
the
would-
bird at the bottom.
Yeah.
That little suggestion of it. Yeah.
That's the good bit. And I just want to, before I go, I just want to repeat this saying there, Tal wins the eyeshadow. About thanking you for chairing and hosting. You did to actually go to keep us under control is like herding cats. So you do a good job of it. So yeah,
I don't know. Some of our larger discussions are a bit chaos on the bridge, but
as I said, it's like herding cats. So,
I'm just very fortunate to have a lot of folks that come on here who are just respectful and know how to have conversations. So thank you very much, and good job, Ruben, on keeping it PG-13. My mom will be very pleased with you. So.
Don't watch the Star Trek watch along last night, Mom.
Do not watch. She will not watch our Star Trek watch along from last night.
But everyone else should.
But it is adults only, so everyone else can watch it. It was a heck of a good time. We drank a shot of something or imbibed or partook of something intoxicating every time there was a colorful metaphor, which there are a lot of in Star Trek 4. So that was cool. And yesterday was the 35th anniversary of Star Trek 4.
That's right.
Which means that Star Trek V's 35th anniversary is going to come up soon. I'm so excited about that. But anyways, live long and prosper, everybody. Thank you so much